I'm Philip Crook. I'm currently the interim chair of Southampton branch Reform UK, and I've also been recently elected as the councillor for Reform Party UK for Coxford Ward here in Southampton.
So in your Coxford Ward, Reform UK increased their vote share by 30% and finished up from third place at the last set of elections. What were the key issues that you heard when you were out campaigning?
It was a remarkable result, and congratulations to all the other 7 candidates as well, a first in history. The main thing I got from people and actually knocking on doors was the basics. The litter, the state of the roads, the children on motorbikes driving down paths, real basic, things that should not be a problem, but they've become a problem. The other major issue was national issues, the state of the government, the state of the country. So it was basics and what was going on in the country. They were the main threads. And that's what Reform has been saying. We've got a national crisis, economically, migration, all of that. But that filters down to the local level, where the Labour Council couldn't fix the roads, couldn't pick up the litter, can't get the police to work. And I know there's an issue there about controlling, who controls the police, who directs the police on the local side. So they were the main issues we confronted.
And did issues sort of differ ward to ward, depending on, obviously, in your ward for Coxford Ward and others?
There were some localized issues. For example, in Coxford, one of the main threads from a lot of people was young boys on motorbikes, trail bikes, going down paths, driving directly at people, cars going too fast. I know some of the other wards had similar issues like that, but that was the main one for Coxford. Other wards, the common thread was there: the state of the housing, the state of the roads, the state of litter, fly tipping, and lack of respect. People weren't standing up for themselves to pick up the litter, to challenge people for bad behaviour, mainly because they probably didn't know the police were going to be there to support them and a bit frightened of a reaction. But that was the common thread across the city, the basics and the impact of the national situation. But simply, people are fed up. They're fed up with the uniparty. And I include the Liberal Democrats in that because they've been around for years with Labour and Tories. And you wonder, what have we actually achieved and why are we in this dire state as a country?
And you speak of this sort of uniparty, and there wasn't obviously an overall majority for Labour on Southampton City Council. Are there any issues that you prepare to work with other parties on certain issues?
It's still early days yet. And what Reform, a fundamental, I think a lot of people miss this. Reform is about what is the right solution for the people, for families, for communities, for the country. It's regardless of ideology. If something works and it's affordable and it's legal and all of that side of it, then let's do it. So if Labour, who are the majority party, are more likely to work or go in bed with the Liberal Democrats in Southampton, if they come up with a sensible idea, properly funded, then we could well support it. If it's right for the people of Southampton, we're not going to be bloody minded and say, no, we don't support that because it's Labour. If things are working, they're affordable and they're good for the people of Southampton, then we would come out and support it. But we will be challenging every line, every issue, because we don't feel that the current Labour Party in Southampton, the Tories and the Liberal Democrats, they say they have the true interest of the people, but they don't deliver it. Hence the issues coming from the people, as I mentioned, in Coxford.
And are there concerns about the local government reform proposals from central government coming ahead in the next year or so? Because my understanding is that Reform UK aren't inherently opposed to changes to local government, but are concerned by what's being proposed.
Well, we put together, I can't remember, about a year ago, I think it was, Dr. Alex Cully, who's one of our leading reform guys in the South. You may have interviewed him before. Him and I, well, he predominantly wrote this article pointing out all the issues and concerns. We didn't at the time believe it was the right direction because the country's broke and this is a costly exercise. However, that is the plan because the government, the Labour councils, other Lib Dem councils have all basically agreed to it. So we've got to go along with it. However, we don't believe that democracy has been upheld. Have the people really been consulted? They say they've done online surveys, but talking to a lot of people, they don't know much about it. But also they go, well, wait a minute, what does that mean about representation? What does that mean about the debt? Is Southampton going to share and inherit the Eastleigh debt, which is quite large? There are more questions still to be answered, and that's a concern and something Reform Group, the 8 of us, on Monday will be having a meeting to discuss the various issues, and local government review is top of that pile at the moment because it will impact on how we run the city in the future or not run the city properly in the future. What happens to Eastleigh councillors, those in Totton, New Forest, Hampshire? Where's they going to sit? How many? What size of wards? There are still lots of basic questions to be answered at this stage. And we'll be pushing hard at the next council meeting, which I think is next Wednesday after the mayoral meeting. We will be discussing this and definitely demanding some transparency and some answers.
And I suppose, are there concerns then that these proposals are just adding to the intro when there's enough problems to attend to in Southampton as it is, crime or, cost of living or whatever it may be, that this is essentially just adding unnecessary burden to the city council administrators?
As I said earlier, we thought, well, we can't afford it. Our earlier report we fed in on the initial questions that were asked. There's a lot going on, as I've mentioned and you confirmed. Let's focus on just fixing what's broken. There's not a lot of money. Councils have got their hands tied because of the way the local government structure is. They're mandated to deliver certain services, adult social care, quite rightly, but there's not a lot of money. And to go through an exercise of reorganisation, in principle, probably a good idea if it's going to create better democracy, etc. But timing-wise, we can't afford it. We can't afford the disruption. And also, what is the political agenda behind this? Is this to seal up the cracks in Labour, Tory, Lib Dem votes? I don't know. I'll feed that out there because, as I said, Reform is challenging this, and we want to see the details of it before we, decide on the right direction. But I think there are so many more questions we need to know before we can make an informed decision.
And there's also set to be a Solent mayor. Is this an opportunity that Reform are sort of looking forward to because it's another election that could be won, or are you also concerned in the same vein as these other local government proposals?
Yeah, you're right. We are concerned about it, and we say, well, the timing of this and what are the actual powers? Can we afford to do it? What real change would a Solent mayor do? What powers do they really have? We may well be outvoted on this. We'll have to see on the direction if it still goes ahead. I think it's been postponed to 2028, 29. If that's the case, we will have somebody standing to fight that election because we need to get representation in there. We need people to take control of these positions so that then we can affect real change for the interests of the people, families, communities, and the country.
And you've obviously spoken about the debt burden that these city councils had or have. Is there anything, or what would Reform be doing differently were Reform elected as the largest party on city council to reduce the debt?
there are a number of measures. As I said earlier, there's not a lot of money there. It's very tight. We understand that, but we still see levels of waste. And one of the things we will do with our own expertise, we've got a fairly experienced group of people in council now, even though, excuse me, even though we're new to the political game, we've got some people with good qualifications, experience of life, running businesses and so on. But one thing we've already identified, and I'm not going to go into the detail at this stage, but there is a high level of waste going on. It may be a few pounds here and there, but it all adds up when you've got a tight budget. Let's have a look at the contracts. What are the deals we got there? What is the council debt? How is the loan arrangement? For example, Kent County Council, within weeks of taking over, saved 5 million on rearranging the debt. Now, for Kent, that is a small sum, a bigger sum for Southampton. But what is the situation with the debt? Can we renegotiate that to get a better deal? And I mentioned contracts. What contracts we've got, are they competitive? Can we get better rates and services? All that side of it. So that's the first step, is look at the books, what we can save. We're also looking at how do we enrich Southampton. It means a lot to enrich, not just financially, economically, but quality of life. And that can only be achieved by enriching the city financially. Can we attract more business in? What have we done about the Freeport? And at the moment, I think that's sort of at the bottom of the sea. We don't see any real advantage of the Freeport initiative, which came about 2 or 3 years ago. And I've been engaging with this to find out more. But it is very, very limited. And an option, a possibility, which we would push, and if we were in power, I know there's a lot of legal and financial issues here, but why not make the whole city of Southampton a free port? And if you comply with the rules and regulations, you gain an advantage of being a free port status, which saves on taxes and other, but it improves jobs, it improves profitability, which is then reinvested, and so on. So that's just a starter, as well as making sure that we engage with artificial intelligence, because we know that's the next quantum leap in the way we run things with technology, artificial intelligence, with measures, obviously, to control that we still remain in control rather than artificial intelligence. But that's the start of what a Reform Council would do.
And obviously, I'm speaking anecdotally, but when I go to Southampton, there tends to be quite a lot of traffic disruption. And there was fairly recently, or relatively recently, on the Itchen Bridge. Is there a particular area when it comes to infrastructure that Reform would focus differently on?
I think initially, and with the financial situation, is let's focus on the basics, make sure the roads do run smoothly. And I totally understand, having driven around Southampton a lot more over the last few months, campaigning and supporting, the number of traffic lights, poor road junction layouts, so many signs, limited access for cars. You're getting fined for going down a bus lane when you don't even know it's a bus lane until it's too late. We've got to look at how do we initially just get the roads in good order, safe working order. How do we improve the basic traffic flow? And that could be a change in a simple layout with existing budgets. And I think we give the current contractor a lot of money to come and do this work, but are they doing it? Are they just coming in to fix basics, or are they just spending it on major projects, etc., which we don't see really benefiting the traffic flow in the city? We certainly got to look at the long term as well, and that's where I believe our members of parliament come in, our 2 members of parliament. What are they doing about getting major government investment in the city? Because it's a major seaport, not just the ocean liners, but the trading side. Surely we've got to look strategically in how we improve the flow of goods and traffic into the city to enhance the trade, which helps the country. But certainly pressure on, and if it's Reform MPs, it would certainly be, how do we draw an investment into our city? And that can be created or aided by better roads, better access, better rail. We're quite unique with the air, the port, and the networks, but they could be a lot better.
Just because you speak, of course, about the connectivity of Southampton, it obviously links to London quite well. Do you think in this area that Southampton has been quite overlooked for some time by Westminster?
I think very much so. It's interesting because you hear all the surveys and below average education, below average living standards, the housing issue here, poor state of housing. And yet Southampton is a city in one of the richest regions of the world, the south of England. Why is that? And the logical conclusion I come to is, well, we've had a Labour and Tory regimes, not just nationally, but locally here in Southampton. And why haven't they grasped this? Why haven't the MPs over the years, predominantly Labour MPs, why haven't they really gone out their way to help this little diamond that sits on the south coast, a major port, ocean liners, trade, the new forests, the historic docks, all of that? And it's like being stuck in treacle. That's what it is. The city is stuck in treacle because the politicians here haven't got the strategic vision. They haven't got the nous to really push those buttons and put pressure through their MPs, through government, for greater inward investment, be it government money or private investment, because there's so much opportunity in this city. You look at the city centre, and parts of the city are cut off by walls of containers, and the only serious access to the sea is through Mayflower Park. And look at Victoria Pier, falling into the sea. It's dreadful.
And do you think Southampton is an isolated case, or do you think places like Portsmouth have also suffered in a similar way?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a general decline across the country. Years of economic stagnation. The economy is not really growing. They talk about 0.1% here as if it's wonderful. When you see other countries 3, 4, 5%, we should be, as an island nation with our proud history of trade around the globe, all our Commonwealth connections, all of those, and the innovation. We've got brilliant engineers and scientists. We should be, to use a phrase, the Singapore, or previously the Hong Kong of the West. And we miss that opportunity because of the poor quality, the low level of strategic vision by the current crop of politicians, the governing politicians in the Labour and Tory parties. They've allowed this stagnation. They've allowed this reliance on welfare, the reliance on the state will look after you. It doesn't work. Nowhere in the world has socialism worked. So we need change, and Reform is offering that. Not perfect. We're still learning. We've got some incredibly capable people, many of them who aren't tainted by political careers or ideology. They just want what's good for the people, what's good for the families, and good for the city and the country.
And what will the first few weeks in Southampton City Council for Reform look like?
Pretty hectic. It's like any new job. And don't forget, it's not full-time. I am retired, so I could dedicate a lot more time than some of our counterparts, or some of our colleagues, rather, who have got full-time jobs. There's what I call the induction period. We've had an induction day where, given our laptop, given the telephone numbers and the process, the protocols, all the legal bits, we've got to absorb that information, understand the processes, etc., and the compliance that we've got to by law. And then next Wednesday is the mayoral making, so a ceremonial formal occasion. And then there's the first AGM, first council meeting. So we're new, we're learning the ropes. We've got Sarah Powell-Vaughan, our newly elected group leader, and she's been a councillor before, so she knows the score, and she's leading the team of boys, the other 7 of us, through over the hurdles. But basically get established. And once we understand the basics of the council, who can support us, which council officers are responsible, and how we work with them, our priority is to represent the people of our wards. Because at the end of the day, they're paying the taxes, they live here, they pay the consequences of all the issues, and we've got to not manage the problems, but start solving them. And that's not easy. As I said, there's no money there, but we will make best use of what we can. We're not in power, but we will certainly ensure that the Labour Council and whoever they're with are transparent, clear, and we will challenge them on every issue to make sure that they serve the city best.
And what kind of administration do you think will take shape on the city council?
It's still Labour, 23, 24 councillors. I understand it's possible, I may sound a bit like a politician now, but that they could go in bed with the Liberal Democrats, the second largest group behind us, and they could go in bed with the Liberal Democrats now as a coalition. I don't know, but possibly on a case-by-case basis, which could cause some confusion, on an issue here. They support it, the next issue they don't. So we could get a turbulent time. And certainly what we want is clarity, transparency, and we'll be challenging on that. Please explain what you mean by selling these assets off of the city. Are you getting the commercial rates for it so the taxpayer benefits? I think it's going to be, and even from the experienced councillors, these are different times for Southampton Council, because they normally have had a Tory or a Labour, a Tory or a Labour, two sides. Now they've got us, and they are worried about us, because we will start challenging, we will start bringing them to account.